Trembling as he held a gun to his head in the Deer Hunter's most famous scene, Robert De Niro had every reason to look terrified, making the film had been a game of Russian roulette in itself. Now, 40 years after the film exposed the savagery and horror of the Vietnam War, two of the actors, John Savage and George Zunza, reveal the real battles which went on behind the cameras. Savage, Bobby De Niro's co-star and lifelong pal, tells how far the cast, including Christopher Walken, Jon Voight, and Meryl Streep, were willing to go to get the movie's powerful anti-war message to the big screen. Savage, 69, who played Stephen, recalls how they took their lives in their hands, dodging deadly logjams and snakes, and dangling out of a helicopter, seconds from being dashed to death 60 feet below. He says, "There is no way any studio today would allow their stars or crew to face the risks we did making The Deer Hunter. The film is about life on the edge. The shoot was very much like that. None of us realized how much danger we were in. It felt like we were going to war just to make this movie. Bobby was our leader. He and the director made sure this film would become special. It was also thanks to De Niro, then 35, that Savage won his role in the movie." He popped backstage after seeing Savage in a Broadway show in 1977. Savage says, he walked in with director Michael Cimino and said, "Savage, you were pretty good, and then started talking about this film, The Deer Hunter, about a community in Pennsylvania. I knew the story as it was so close to my heart. Within weeks I got offered the part." The Deer Hunter, which won 5 Oscars in 1979, tells the story of 3 Pittsburgh steel workers who struggle to recover mentally after being drafted to fight in the Vietnam War. It is widely considered to have altered Americans' view of the veterans who had come home from a discredited war to find they were now the enemy. But, as Savage reveals, this momentous achievement could have cost the actors their lives. He says, "Bob, Chris, and I are lucky to be alive. We almost got killed. Shooting the war scenes in Thailand, the cast and crew were dogged by the threat of kidnap." Savage says, "Back then that country was far from stable, and armed refugees and military groups were running wild. Many of them saw us as a way of making a quick buck. Director Cimino hired heavily armed guards, but Savage, De Niro and Walken found themselves in more immediate danger, dangling from a bridge above the River Kwai for a flashback scene. As the three held onto the bridge's struts, an army helicopter accidentally sliced through their metal safety cables, leaving them clinging on for their lives above the rocks in the raging river 60 feet below. Savage says, "We knew we were in trouble when the cables got cut." Amazingly, Chris, who is an athlete and a dancer, pulled himself up and into the helicopter, which flew up, leaving Bobby and I hanging from the sliced cable in an absolute panic, knowing this could be the end of our lives. Bob was right next to me and it's like, "SH, and he's screaming in my face and I'm looking down. What do we do? Should we drop? There's rocks and SH down there." I was calling Bobby by his character name, yelling, "Michael, Michael, I'm not sure we should drop in the water there." Bobby yells at me, "Jesus Christ, John. Don't call me by my character name. We're effing going to die here." I started laughing and just said, "I'm going," and we looked at one another and both dropped. God knows how, but we missed the rocks and the water took us to the side of the production boat below. We both stared at one another on deck. Then we looked up to see that the helicopter was wavering as it was stuck to the cable on the bridge, but luckily somebody crawled out and pushed it off. Had that not happened, the copter could have crashed down on us too. Just then, De Niro noticed a snake, a Thai bandit cried, on his friend's leg. Savage says, "A snake was wrapped around my leg. I was still in disbelief at what happened, so kind of froze. One of the guys on the boat calmly removed it and then cut its head off. Later he told me its bite was deadly." The 3 leading men found themselves in deep water again, shooting the famous log scene in a fast-moving river. Savage says, "We hung off the logs as the water pushed them around. I got pushed down in shallow water, trapping my legs in the wet sand. Suddenly the rest of the logs were coming toward us and about to cover me entirely and drown me. I heard Chris shout, "We're getting stuck." Then Bobby went under too as the logs rolled out of control. Chris somehow pulled me out. The panicked camera team rammed the boat into the logs to stop us getting crushed or drowned. The impact dislodged the camera and it fell in, the footage lost forever. Bobby somehow got out of the water, onto the log and used the boat to push our log away from the danger area. Even when the cameras stopped rolling, the drama continued for the cast as they watched co-star John Cazale battle terminal cancer, bravely supported by his girlfriend Streep. Cazale, 42, who had been dating Streep for 3 years, knew he was dying of lung and bone cancer. Savage says, "John was in a bad way, so after shooting we would often go up to their hotel room. Meryl was always by his side, caring for him. We all knew this was his farewell, but his spirit was so strong with so much laughter on those nights.